Yeah, back in room. We're gonna take down the sham of a man named Shamspear.
Yeah, the web that they weave is quite tangled at this point, because now we think Olive Green is trying to hurt was trying to hurt Shamspear. Shamspear may have killed her fiance. And poor Natsumi thinks a ghost is trying to kill him.
It's funny because we're theorizing that both Olive Green and Shamspear are basically there's two attempted murders that we're theorizing. The only person who's didn't attempt any is the guy accused himself. So we still don't really know why this is such an important case that Sholmes jet out and nobody wants anybody to know about it. Maybe we'll find out. Well, as you managed to expose this promising new angle, I wonder if you should perhaps try to develop that. Ah, yes, of course. We have a new clue at last. Alright, now I need to pull off a really insightful objection somewhere. Promising new angle. Try to develop it. Okay. Yelling out objection isn't necessarily the best way to do that, I suppose.
Press her here, to see how she's like fidgeting.
Yeah. So let's try now.
Not a coincidence.
Because I don't know if we even pressed her on the first two. What were you doing there that day, though? What do you mean? The art school you attend, what's it called?
Thorndike.
Ah, yes, it's the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts, and that's not where it is, because we know that she was trying to meet somebody.
Yeah, about that letter, because the torn part of the letter is in the room.
Mm-hmm. According to Mr. Sholmes, that's just in the vicinity of Brixton Road. Of course, she's got the book out, which is some 10 stops away from the scene on the Underground. I believe you mentioned before that you also live on Brixton Road, isn't that right? So why then would you have been walking around Briar Road in the middle of the East End? Well, it's because, oh yes, of course, I thought it might make a nice picture. The witness is a student of art. City-dwelling artists can't all paint grand urban vistas. That's right. I happen to like the crumbling look of that part of town. Perhaps quaint would have been a less grating term. The point is, she's definitely hiding something. Yes, it seems she's not going to be forthcoming with the truth. She's trying to hide why she was there that evening. It must mean there's a reason for her not wanting us to know. That's the key to this. And you, Mr. Shamspear, on the evening of the incident 6 days ago, would you tell the court what exactly you were doing? 'Twould be my pleasure, sire. Alright, we spoke my supper. First time I'd been in that area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all. Anyway, I was administered to the hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business. I don't remember pressing them about anything, though. Let's press on this first thing.
Hold it! Hold it!
I'm well acquainted with the case. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Her on these last time.
We did?
Mm-hmm. I remember pressing her.
Solved, Cobra arrested, the incident's been resolved. It should now be forgotten. Yes, I suppose so. Thank you. Before you put it completely behind you, Miss Green, I need you to remember the details one last time. You must tell the court exactly what happened that day for us to arrive at the truth about this new case. Trouble is, there's nothing to tell, really. I was just walking along the pavement. Okay. We press him on this?
Yeah, because remember he said it's like he was at an expensive restaurant getting... He goes, well, I learned to taste the water everywhere.
Gotcha, okay. It was the first time I'd been in that area.
So we're going to have to present her the envelope.
Perhaps. Well, we don't have the full envelope.
But she brought the letter with her.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
But we should probably present that other piece that we found in the room.
Yeah.
To show her she was inside there. And she was there another time other than when she got stabbed.
Okay, she had a little matter to attend to. What matter? What little matter, Miss Green? Please elaborate. It was nothing, really. It's not worth mentioning. If you remember, you mentioned it to us yesterday at the hospital. Ah. It was related to the card you were holding. was that? She clearly just hit something. From memory, I believe the card contained a note that read, "I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross." What does that matter? This has nothing to do with Duncan. Duncan Ross. Please, Miss Green, tell us more about that note. I'm sorry. There's really nothing I can tell you, but I can assure you it's unrelated to all of this, completely unrelated. The truth is you went out that day because that's what the note told you to do, isn't it? The instructions were for you to come to Briar Road at 5 o'clock that afternoon. I didn't think I should go at first, but then I thought it might be a good opportunity to see what the East End looked like. Very well, that's your final word on the matter. Please continue. Anyway, I was admitted straight to the hospital, so I knew nothing about all of this business. I have to think we did pressure on this, but let me get it again. Yet you didn't regain consciousness until the day after the trial, did you, in the early hours? Exactly, so how could I have had anything to do with it? Yet you still haul me in here to court like this, honestly. So at the time of the poisoning, the witness was unconscious in her hospital bed. Could there be a more airtight alibi, I ask you? And yet, in spite of that, you claim that I was the culprit? Well, But you certainly haven't produced any evidence to support your wild claim, have you? None at all. There you have it. The good lady has yet to see evidence, my learned Nipponese friend.
I don't think we got to this part.
I'm working on it. Counsel, I will point out here that the jury's next decision will be final. We're really up against the wall here. Well, Mr. Neverhoder, you pursued Mr. Shakespeare wonderfully there. It worked out well, hasn't it? We have a new clue at last. Alright, now I need to pull off a really insightful objection somewhere. Well, as you've managed to expose this promising new angle, I wonder if you should perhaps try to develop that? Ah, yes, of course. Yelling at objections isn't necessarily the best way.
It's gonna be with her.
Yeah. Let me, press it just to refresh what he said.
Hold it! Hold it!
A tavern, you say? Which one? 'Twas the Slug and Salad where I did tarry, 'tis a jewel in the East End. And a little unexpected, I feel. What do you mean, Lord Von Zieks? The Slug and Salad offers unusually fine dining. I kind of remember this, for the locality at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronized by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room. It's true, the menu lists premium crusts of bread and glasses of water and different levels of cloudiness. I would have expected Grub's Grubbery in the local vicinity to be more appropriate for your means. Watery soup and mushy peas, or rather soupy water and pea like mush. All equally appetizing. I just wanted to try some water in a different pub for once. What's wrong with that? How different can water really be? Or perhaps there's a more plausible explanation. A specific reason why he had to go to that particular establishment. Agreed. The fact that on that day of all days he dined at a place he wouldn't normally, it does stand out. So Mr. Shakespeare's own actions on the day of the incident 6 days ago were slightly suspicious. I wonder if we have some evidence that can explain those actions. Mr. Shakespeare. Yes, sire. On the day in question, is it not the case that you visited the Slug and Salad, a place you don't normally patronize, for a very particular reason? I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hast some purpose, speakest. Very evidence. Evidence that explains why you had to be at the Slug and Salad that day. Namely, was he the one who sent the note, is what we're saying?
I think so.
Take that!
Uh-oh.
I believe this card reveals the answer. Yeah, because the music didn't stop at first. You thought we got it wrong. I was a little hesitant, but when he switched, like when he didn't just do the shifty-eye thing where he's looking wide-eyed, I thought maybe we had it. I think we do. I believe this card reveals the answer. Good lord, Miss Green's card, you mean? That's right, my lord. It reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. Mr. Shakespeare, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note. Personally, I find it hard to believe that's a coincidence. Don't you, Mr. Shakespeare? Well, excuse me, can I say something? Yes, Miss Green. That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this odd man, does it? Well, you think so, yes, but it's hard to believe it's merely... My lord, may I? May you what, Miss Green? I'd like to make something very clear about that card. Very well, then you may amend your testimony to include details about the particular note. This note was delivered to me at my address. It's nothing to do with the odd man next to me here.
Hold it! Hold it!
I think you said that you received it the day before the incident, didn't you? Yes, that's right. There appears to be no indication of the sender's name or address on the envelope. It was in my letterbox, and that's all I know, I'm afraid. I've no idea who sent it. So how do you know it's not? I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Who is this Duncan Ross, please? A friend of mine. He attended the same art school as I do. He passed away in a tragic accident a month ago now, though. I wasn't sure what to make of that note, to be honest, but in the end I decided to go. So you found out what the information was? Of course I didn't. You're not thinking straight. Whilst on her way there, she was stabbed in the back, as my learned friend hopefully remembers. Ah, yes, of course. She never made it to the meeting. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, we contradicted him, but that opened up new testimony. No, it does because we have the other note. We have the other part of the note.
Objection!
The day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago now, this note was delivered to your address. And upon carrying out the instructions in the note, you found yourself in hospital. Yes, I did. It's terrible, everything that's happened to me. Yes, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is. What do you mean? Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's the torn-off end of an envelope. Oh, is it? And it so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the note you received. Where did you find that? In Mr. Shamspeare's room. In my room? Mr. Shamspeare, do you perhaps remember this note from somewhere? Well, your actions that afternoon followed the instructions in the note to the letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on 17, and so that's exactly where you went. Let me ask you again, Mr. Shamspeare. You already knew about this note, didn't you? And you, Miss Green? Ah, what did I do? As this torn-off end of the envelope proves, the note was originally in Mr. Shamspeare's room, so how is it that it came to be in your possession? I don't have the first idea. I'm just a fledgling artist, after all. There's only one explanation. You broke into Mr. Shamspeare's room and stole it. You did what? Sorry, thou hast what? Every time he gets mad, he breaks character. You broke, I mean, thou were in my room? What on earth do you want with me? It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again. Miss Green? Yes. Whilst you have the court's sympathy, I'm sure, for the suffering you have endured in recent events, anyone found to be giving false testimony in a court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind. Yes, I know. Very well then, witnesses, you will give formal testimony again now. On the subject of this curious anomaly regarding the note Miss Green claimed to have received. You did what? Thou hast... This guy is a piece of work. Ooh, you went into Allegro. I do remember now. 'Twas a week ago, peradventure, that note was delivered unto me. On the day writ therein, I did tarry a long hour at the Slug and Salad, yet nobody came. Thereafter, on the evening I shared the company of the Japanese fellow, I did see the note had vanished. I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this man's room, do you? Why would I? I can point out the villain here, and as for that torn-off piece of the envelope, I don't know anything about it. I like that arrow. That's adorable. You now claim to have received this letter, do you, Mr. Shamspear? Faith, 'tis so, my lord, and I would swear to have set it upon the table in my humble lodgings. Yet 'tis clear to me now that since I returned from the tavern that night, I have not laid eyes upon it. Well, that being the case, young lady, it would appear that your testimony was a lie? Is that what you think? How unfair of you to think I'm the one lying. I beg your pardon? I'm just a fledgling artist, as I said, and fledgling artists don't lie. That note was delivered to me at my address. Besides, we all know who the liar around here is. If that's true, Miss Green, how do you explain the facts? This part of the envelope was without question found, and I don't see why I should explain. Sorry. I'm a fledgling artist. My job here is just to say what happened, that's all. It's your job to give the explanations and the proofs, you, the fledgling lawyer. The fledgling will do his best. Evidently, my learned friend's cross-examination is our only hope of learning the truth. Well, counsel, I'm ready, my lord. Very well, then, the defense will now proceed with the cross-examination of the witnesses. Miss Green clearly did break into Mr. Shamspear's room. There can be no question of that. And that's how she acquired the note. Yes, two facts that are starting to lead me to a possible explanation for all of this. And it's not a pretty one. Do you remember now? 'Twas a week ago, peradventure.
Hold it! Hold it!
I like peradventure. And can you shed any light on the contents of the note at all? Nay, sire, 'tis as strange to me as a foreign tongue. Even with a knowledge of literature as great as mine own, verily, 'tis impenetrable. But Mr. Duncan Ross had lodgings in the same household as you. In effect, he was your neighbor, so surely you knew him, didn't you? Alack, if the choices be twixt I knew him and I knew him not, then 'tis with foreboding that I be forced to declare we were by some small measure acquainted. Despite your claims, though, you followed the note's instructions and went to the Slug and Salad. Presumably that was nothing to do with your knowledge of literature? Marry, naught will have the better of me, sire, save for the lure of curiosity. So 'tis true I was compelled by mine own eager heart to betake myself to the tavern, yet in the end my curiosity was not satiated. On the day right therein, I did tarry a long hour at Slug, but nobody came. So even after waiting an hour, nobody appeared. Well, yes, sire, 'tis as thou sayest. Really? You paused for a moment before you answered. In truth, when thou asked whether nobody appeared, I did suddenly recall. Really? Do you mean to tell the court that somebody did appear after all? I was not alone that night at the Slug and Salad, my lord. No, 'tis returning to me now. I did treat my lips to almost clear water, and mine innards to a premium crust of bread, and all around me danced a great many companions. What do you mean? Flies, sire, flies. Good lord. In the name of Beelzebub, what were they? Fairies, perchance, from a midsummer night's dream, come to taunt me? I think they were just flies. I can't help thinking that the flies ought to choose something more wholesome to buzz around. Is that wrong of me? Thereafter, on the evening I shared the company with the Japanese fellow, I did see the note had vanished. Whoops.
Hold it! Hold it!
When exactly did you notice it had gone missing? Such idle thoughts never occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas. In other words, you didn't notice. Several days passed between your adding to the tavern and Mr. Natsumi's visit to your room. Yes, it would appear that the note disappeared sometime in that interval. Such idle thoughts never occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas. And yet during that time Miss Green was comatose in hospital, was she not? Clearly then she could not have been stealing things from Mr. Shamspeare's room. Yes, of course. It's all some sort of misunderstanding, isn't it, Mr. Prosecutor, sir? You have so far failed to give a satisfactory explanation as to how you came by the note. I'm not here to advocate for your defense, madame. I won't tolerate inconsistencies in your story. You would do well to remember that. Oh, dearie me. What's Lord Von Zieg's getting at? I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this man's room, do you? Why would I? It seems that this note was actually delivered to Mr. Shamspeare about 1 week ago. Oh, does it? But for some reason it ended up in your possession. I can't think of any way that could have happened except for you breaking into Mr. Shamspeare's lodgings. Wait a minute. The letter was delivered to him?
So, she's saying that she got it,
Yeah.
but that's why he went to that bar. Is because someone said, hey, come here at 5 o'clock. But maybe she just wanted to get him out of the room to put the poison on the lamp.
That could
She
be
could have
it.
been watching through the hole where he put the soup and figured out what he did. Or put the soap.
Thing is, if she was stabbed then, how could she have possibly put the poison on the gas?
Because he would have left the note there to go to the tavern. And then while he's there, she would put the poison on there and then take the note back.
And then when she got out, she dropped her book, and then the knife came down?
Or she got stabbed, yeah.
I can think of any way that could have happened except for you breaking into Mr. Shamspeare's lodgings. But for what reason would the witness have done that? I won't deny that Miss Green's possession of the note would appear to defy logic. However, until and unless her involvement in this case can be proven in some other way, any further pursuit of this note is meaningless. Miss Green could only have come to be in possession of that note by stealing it from Mr. Shamspeare's room. And yet there's no obvious reason why she would have done such a thing. What if there was some other reason she broke into the lodgings, though? Yes, we should pursue that idea, Mr. Naruhodo. We're close now, I can feel it. We're so close to a breakthrough. I can point out the villain here, and as for that torn up piece of the envelope, I don't know anything about it. So you don't want to tell the court the truth about the letter, is that it? I'm a fledgling artist, remember? Artists are nearly always introverted characters. Introverted? Aye, this fledgling doth readily cast aspersions about my nature. Yet I am an angel, a seraph. Birds do harmonize with my song. The wind doth frolic. Oh pity, wherefore dost thou accuse one so pure of heart, ample woman? Pure of heart? I don't think so. Even a fledgling like me can see you're just a failure. Tragedy. Thou shalt not know the true heart of an artist until thine instruction hereafter by death. Oh the days, oh the years, alas to enlighten thee, thou must wait so long and in vain. Mr. Naruhodo, interject with some clever remark. This is your chance to shine. I'm no Shakespearean actor, Mrs. Sato. Now, as far as I can tell, the only thing that's going to resolve this argument is evidence. Yes. It's clear that Miss Green did in fact break into Mr. Shamspeare's room, isn't it? And that's where she found this letter. Yes, two more or less foregone conclusions that lead me to one terrifying conclusion. Terrifying? Yes, I'm afraid to say that the outcome of this cross-examination may well change how we look at this case completely. Why would I? Maybe we should pretend the poison?
Yeah.
Objection!
Yesterday at the hospital we saw you with this bottle, and though the contents spilled during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained. According According to the defense's independent analysis, Mr. Sholmes' chemistry test, the liquid that was still in the bottle was identified as strychnine. What? Strychnine? The very same poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare. Miss Green, you broke into this man's lodgings for one reason and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp to Mr. Shamspeare's room with poison. Can this be? Broke into my room to... It may seem incredible to the court, but from the remaining clues, there is only one logical conclusion that we can reach. The person who attempted to take Mr. Shamspeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dearie. Me, aww. Order, counsel. Are you seriously suggesting this woman put poison on the end of the gas pipe with intent to kill? Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts. But if Miss Green did indeed set this odious trap 6 days ago, and the victim had put his mouth to the pipe that very evening as expected, the attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely. Well, that's a very good point.
No, because he was in jail. Natsumi was in jail for her stabbing.
Yeah, he was in jail. Yeah.
Oh, maybe he's caught on.
Perhaps not, my lord. I beg your pardon? There was a significant police presence in the area that evening on account of the incident on Briar Road. Local residents were being interviewed throughout the night as part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at the time. Lord Von Zieks. And of course, the following morning there was more activity at Mr. Shamspeare's address. More activity? Ah, yes. You mean his fellow lodger, Mr. Natsumi, being arrested on suspicion of murder. That's right. And as the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shamspeare was meddling with the gas in the pipe for a very sinister reason himself. To cause the gas stove in Mr. Natsumi's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. But once Mr. Natsumi had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In the circumstances, Mr. Shamspeare had no reason to blow air into the gas pipe. His intended victim being in a prison cell. With the need to tamper with the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant. And then, 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right, Mr. Natsumi's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end. The trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green in the back, but was duly acquitted. That resulted in Mr. Natsumi returning to his lodgings for the first time in 2 days. And that very night his gas stove mysteriously went out, and Mr. Shamspeare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's room some 4 days earlier. Mary! With that new understanding, it becomes clear that this letter was all part of the plan. What plan? The court will recall that the note gave instructions to visit the Slug Inn Salad at 5 o'clock, and that the recipient should tell no one else. The reason for those instructions are now clear. To ensure that the lodger would not be at home at the stated time. To make sure I wasn't home. No, to ascertain thou... He saw a character. Exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing that she wouldn't be disturbed. You mean to say that letter was written by Miss Green, yes. And in order to cover her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. Just after she smeared poison over the mouth of the gas pipe in your room. And that explains why. He opened the letter, so that part was like lying on the floor somewhere, but she doesn't care about that, she just took the letter. What do you have to say for yourself, witness? Just who are you? Why did you try to kill me? Miss Green's motive should be obvious. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of this trial. So that's what's behind all this. You will share your apparent understanding with the court, please, counsel. Which person is behind the woman's motive for the attack on the victim's life? Duncan Ross.
Take that!
Duncan Ross. That's right, before the defendant, Mr. Natsumi, took up residence in the lodgings of Mr. Garadebs, somebody else was renting the room, Mr. Duncan Ross. I knew I'd heard the name somewhere else. It was all over the papers a month ago, when the man died in strange circumstances at the haunted lodgings. That does ring a vague... Ah, of course, yes, I remember now. The young man, they claim, was strangled by the convict's curse or some such. Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor was it an accident. The man died as a result of Mr. Shamspeare blowing into the gas pipe and causing gas to leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple. Ha 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 ha, well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses, curious deaths, that's all people care about. If it's an interesting story they want to know, it doesn't cross their minds that real people are involved. And once they're bored, just 1 month later, once the story's lost its appeal, everyone's forgotten him. You mean you... Duncan was... Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiancé. Fiancé? You may not have known until now who Miss Green really is, Mr. Shamspeare. But she's known exactly who you are all along, because you're her sworn enemy, the murderer who took the life of the man she was to marry. Marry? Miss Green, is it not the case that in order to exact revenge on Mr. Shamspeare, you smeared poison over the end of the gas pipe? This is all quite extraordinary. Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse both parties, counsel? Each on different counts of murder. Well, she didn't murder anybody, at least. It was attempted, though. Yes, my lord, that's correct. Inhaling so deeply, it appears that my fledgling learned friend has taken in a lungful of dubious gas that's caused his judgment to be clouded. What? Why would Mr. Shamspeare have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? And now we tie up the motive. You have completely failed to provide a motive to substantiate your accusation against the man. Yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper, my liege. I have been slighted. 'Tis lies, all lies. I deny every utterance. And you'll have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. But I don't intend to admit to anything either. Miss Green. I'm sure you think I'm being very rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the likes of this scoundrel. But you broke into the man's room. If you didn't do it to smear poison on the pipe, what was your reason? I thought I'd have a look around, that's all. Sorry? You're right, he's still jumping. You're right, I suspected him, so I thought perhaps I might find some evidence or something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life. Oh, vileness, oh, villainy, oh, tyranny, oh, rotundity of woman, what?! Oh, that is awful. But in any case, whenever I leave my room, I do turn the key in the lock. That whole place is falling apart, the locks on the doors are no different. Duncan showed me once how to unlock the door with some turps and a piece of wire. Oh, awfulness, oh, artfulness, oh, tyranny, oh, profanity of woman. We will consider your trespassing on some future occasion, but for now, tell the court what you found, what evidence your search revealed. Well, I spotted the note that I'd sent him lying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. One of the floorboards was loose. Underneath it, I discovered a secret hiding place. Eh? Yes, we all discovered that hiding place. Inside, we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty tin box. Ah, yes, well, the thing is, when I found it, the box wasn't empty. What? There was something in it? Yes. This rather nice key. Ah! What are you doing with that? What the... You know, I noticed that on her, but I just thought it was part of her getup for whatever reason.
I thought maybe Duncan had left it for her. He knew that there was treasure, but...
Every ounce of color is drained from his face. Give it here, give it to me now.
It's mine. I inherited it. What was that, witness? What did you say? You inherited it? No, Uh-oh. What's all this about? He inherited that key? It was obviously important to you since you'd gone to such lengths to hide it, so I took it. I don't know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care. Give it back this minute. Give it to me. Calm yourself, witness. So Mr. Shamspeare has tried, and in one case succeeded, to take the life of 2 lodgers now. Yes, his motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened. It's true that there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Mr. Shamspeare at first, but considering everything we now know, I think there is actually something that could explain it. What? I need to recall every piece of evidence at our disposal, everything we've seen and heard. Because I'm sure that I just caught a glimpse of the link that runs through all of these events. It's a pretty cool case. In that case, counsel, I must demand that you present evidence to the court in support of your claim. What is it that you say can explain the motivation for Mr. Shamspeare's alleged crimes? Now let's look at the capital offender again. 18 counts of burglary, 6 counts died of natural causes while in prison, his final moments witnessed only by his cellmate. The estimated 1,000 pounds worth of loot he stole remains uncovered. And if they ask us what it is, it's investigative findings related to Selden.
Take that!
That's an official police report, is it not? The Selden file? How did you get a hold of that? Selden? Uh-oh. The now sadly deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant, Mr. Natsumi, have only one thing linking them. The fact that they had lodgings in the same room. Well, yes, we know this, certainly. A room that was formerly occupied by Selden. Until, that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries. I see. And it so happens that the convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died. The some 1,000 pounds worth of loot that he stole, which as yet remains to be found. Ah yes, of course, it's coming back to me now. It's written in this file here. 1,000 pounds lost en route to hell. That was how the paper summed it up. And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with the convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely guarded secret, the location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key to unlock whatever container the valuables were in. Ah, you mean this key is... Mr. Shamspeare, it was you, wasn't it? You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not? What are you talking about? 'Tis a false charge, I tell you, a false charge. The name of the inmate who was with Selden at his death isn't noted in the file, but a simple telegram to the prison where he died could quickly tell us how false the charge really is. But even if it's true, why would the man be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant of the victor's lodgings? There's only one explanation for that, my lord. It was in that very room that Selden hid his loot. So it all comes out. Yes, and having established that, all of Mr. Shamspeare's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense. When he was let out of prison following Selden's death, he made immediately for Mr. Garridib's lodgings in the hope of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was unable to offer him the accommodation of his choice, because Selden's old room has already been let to somebody else, Mr. Duncan Ross. Which is why Mr. Shamspeare subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant of the room. And when he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching into the newly vacant room. However, a certain jittery someone had beaten him to it. Mr. Soseki Natsumi, the defendant of this case, no less. So you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shamspeare? This time to oust Mr. Natsumi. All for one simple and avaricious reason. To get your hands on the 1,000 pounds of loot left behind by the dead convict. You... Arg?
This is his meltdown?
No, can't be his meltdown. You must give me more! Looks like I'm gonna snuff it before they get to stretch the neck. Listen, I want you to have me loot anything to stop the coppers getting their mitts on it. It's hidden in the room where I was lodging when they got me. Here, this is the key to it. Take it. Always stay one step ahead, mate. See you in L, I guess. Shamspear.
See, am I on guard?
This is mine. What did he just say?
Like it's mine.
Yeah, it's mine. That loot is mine. Oh, it's coming.
Oh.
Oh my god. Mr. Shamspear? It's all lies. I don't accept any of it. Why should I? After all, you don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove I killed that fellow. Forsooth, I'm the victim here, remember? Oh, we still got a meltdown coming! Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me, for the time being anyway. Verily, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close. I just need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it, and I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I'd just give up? There's no question in my mind now, this man is guilty through and through. But he seems so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid that however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done, Mr. Naruhodo. There is a way. Pardon? There's one way I can finish him. No. He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot, which means all we need to do is find it first. A fine plan. Were it not for the fact that the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If it's there at all, it must be very well hidden indeed. Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule. If only there was some way we could find the convict's loot quickly. This is the final piece in this complex puzzle, but I think we may have it in possession already. Or rather, I think we may well have something that can help us find where that loot is hidden. My lord? Yes, counsel? The defense would like to make a proposal about how to find the late convict's hidden loot. Let's save, because I'm not sure where he's going with this. I thought we had him with the last thing. I mean, I guess we can get our guy off not guilty, in a way, but finishing this guy off now is the safest thing, obviously. Let's take a look at our court record. We got Miss Green's card. This file. It wouldn't be in the gas meter, they'd find it.
Maybe the gas meter in his room? Because Natsumi can't really, well...
The thing is, they open the meter to get the change, don't they?
In Natsumi's room, though? Because that would be where the loot is. Well, there couldn't be 1,000 pounds in there, could there?
I mean, you'd think if there was, they would just get it. Right? They would just get 1,000 pounds in loot. I mean, unless he hid it in here, you can only get it from here. I don't know.
This isn't...
I know this isn't his, but what I'm saying is, if it were the gas meter, I don't really see how that would work. Well, sometimes it helps to see how they phrase the green text before. I believe we are already in possession of something that could give us a clue as to its whereabouts. It's our last chance, so it has to be worth a gamble. Besides, we've used the same technique once already, and it definitely paid off then. Very well then, counsel, let the court hear your idea. What do you propose we can use in order to locate the hiding place of the deceased convict's haul? I don't think it'd be teacups. A bar of soap. So this wasn't some plot then. So, I mean, we haven't mentioned it, we know now, but for a little bit, I thought he somehow did something to poison himself or something went wrong.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah. The medical report.
Can we spray Atsumi's room with the handprint thing?
I guess it's possible, but there should be so many handprints now since Selden was there, you know?
You said we already used this technique before.
Yeah.
So, present the picture of Shamspeare's room with the handprints.
Okay.
Because we can't present that spray.
That's right, okay. Oh, I think you got it. If I'm not mistaken, those are Mr. Shamspeare's handprints on the wall of his lodgings. That's right, my lord, exposed as a result of the defense's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science by the great detective, Mr. Sholmes. A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? Do you really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title? I should think the great bard ought to recognize such a title when he hears one, Mr. Shamspeare. Perhaps we should compete for the honor of most ridiculous title. Ah, 'tis Herlock Sholmes himself. What are you doing here, great detective? Your usual haunts are the filthy back streets of the capital, are they not? Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long. And I see your complexion has worsened since we last met. Mr. Sholmes. He does know Lord Von Zieks, then, well enough to say something like that in any case. Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, that does not give you the right to come and go in my courtroom as you see fit. If I may, my lord, Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has already helped us uncover vital clues in this case already. Clues, you say? I call them skin prints, my lord. My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's the method by which we were able to ascertain this gentleman's gas pipe activities. You need only a small sample of something the individual has previously touched to make an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I used the teacup you had been holding. Elementary. So now, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, yes. What am I to use as a sample to make the indicator solution this time? Thank you for offering to help, Mr. Sholmes. When the convict was arrested, he was living in what is now Soseki-san's room. We need a sample to help locate Selden's loot that's hidden in his old room. What form of the sample? Present up.
We're gonna have to take it from a piece of evidence because the man's dead. Well,
But Green has the key, and Selden touched the key, so I think you should be able to do that? I could be overthinking that one, though. I mean, if we had to present a person, we'd have... Yeah, the only person I could think of would be Green because she has the key. Because he used the teacup to get his skin. So maybe some kind of Selden skin would be on the key that she has.
okay.
Let's try it out, and we have 5 opportunities. We will need something of Selden's, in order to create the indicator solution to find his loot. And some of the convict owned happens to be in the possession of somebody listed in the court record. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, your powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. So which particular person do you have in mind? From whom can we obtain a possession of the late convict Selden in order to create the indicator solution?
Take that!
Miss Green. Ah, me? What do you want with me? The key around your neck, if you please. Boom! Sorry. That key belonged to Selden. There will be remnants of secretions from the man's skin on its surface that we can use. Very true. That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required from Mr. Sholmes' skin print seeker. And find out exactly what Selden touched in the room that he used to rent. Mr. Shamspeare is one great to another, I assure you. If the late convict's haul is indeed hidden somewhere in his former lodgings, I shall uncover it in no more than 30 minutes.
Ugh. So, Mr. Shamspear, the truth is well within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hands on Selden's stolen wealth. Oh, God! In that case, I'll gladly let Mr. Sholmes have this key. No, give the key to me. The detectives shan't have it. It's over, Mr. Shamspear. No, no. You're out of options now. There's only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt. Whoa. Oh, Shamsbull's fear, despair. By thy name?
Okay, confetti.
Okay, start speaking not Shakespearean. I never intended to kill the man. I just wanted to drive him out of the room, that's all. So you'd have time to find the convict's haul of stolen goods. Yet after you'd killed the young man, you still didn't move into the room. I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused. Why? I was 3 months behind with the rent, for one thing. Mr. Garrett really has had a lot to put up with. And he had the gas repair work done immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then this Japanese man swooped in at just the right moment to sign the new lease. Poor Mr. Natsumi, what unfortunate timing. Then 5 days ago, after the incident on Briar Road when the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I'd finally have my chance, but it wasn't to be. No, the scene was sealed off and guarded by the police night and day. And if I remember rightly, Mr. Sholmes spent the whole day in there reading books. I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot. Which is why on the day Mr. Natsumi was acquitted and returned to his room, you once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe that feeds the stove in his room. Unbeknownst to you, however, that action would lead you into a deadly trap. William Shamspear, how does it go? To be or not to be, that is the question. From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1. Well, let me tell you in your case, it's not to be. That is the answer. You deserve to die for what you've done. Dang.
Stab him with your art brush. He wasn't as evil as the Meltdowns I thought he was gonna be.
No.
He's not a Giselle Brett or a
he's
Dahlia
not.
Hawthorne.
Yeah, or McGilded. Because he didn't want to kill the man. But the thing is, then, it's like after the first man dies, you tried it again.
Yeah.
So,
didn't care.
Because you really wanted the money, and it's like, well, you know, at first I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation the night before Duncan died. The gas supply and my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive. The gas supply? Yes, the stove always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason. That's no joke. They say it's the convict's curse. Oh, Duncan, please, don't stay there. I don't care how cheap it is. Alright then, if that's important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. There are spare rooms in my house. Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight? No, I'd better not. We said we'd wait until we'd graduated before we told our parents, remember? But that was the last time we ever spoke. That very night, he fell victim to the gas. If only I'd known it was going to happen, I'd have insisted he leave that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is bitter regret. I stopped going to school, but something kept drawing me back to the house on Briar Road. I saw a stooped, Eastern-looking man with a mustache coming out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up the road to Grubb's Grubbery for some food, so I followed him, and sat myself down next to him. He had some watery-looking soup, and started to pick a quarrel with the publican. That place is cursed, I tell you, cursed. The ghost of that convict who used to live there is trying to suffocate me. I wake up in the middle of the night, freezing to death because the stove has gone out. The room is full of gas and I can hardly breathe. But the pipes have been checked. No problems there. It's like I'm the problem. That's what they're thinking. But how could that be? Duncan was gone, and now this man had almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse? Then I remembered. A rumor I'd heard about how the gas companies go around investigating the gas installations. A rumor? Ah, you mean... Yes, everybody's heard the stories, it seems, about how they go around checking the pipes. How anything connected to the gas can be extinguished by blowing air into the pipework. That's when it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind that just wouldn't go away. It was really an accident, though. Once I'd had the idea, it wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me day and night. So I bought this at one of the black markets in the East End. A black market? I'd never been. I just heard people talk about them, and you really can buy anything you can think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out one way or another. Was Duncan's death an accident or was it murder? And your chosen method for establishing the truth was simple but highly effective. Smear poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with and wait. If Mr. Shamspeare was innocent, nothing would come out of what you'd done. If he was guilty, he would pay for his crimes. Dearly. I found out the name of the man I suspected, William Shamspeare, and then I wrote him this little note. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anyone else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. If he'd done it, I knew that would worry him enough so he'd be sure to go. So I waited to see if it worked. And of course Mr. Shamspeare followed the instructions to the letter. I worked out where the gas pipe was straight away, so I smeared a good amount of the poison I brought all around the mouth of the pipe, all the time praying that the devil's work wouldn't be done and that it was all just some wild fantasy. Actually, no. All the time praying that the devil's work would be done and that the culprit would get his just desserts.
I want to see Shamspeare's face.
Yeah, is he still even in the room? Nah. "3 days ago, when you were first in the dock before me, this whole affair seemed relatively straightforward. Yes, my lord. I certainly never imagined the depths of depravity that we should subsequently find lurking behind the scenes. It has been a long road, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes. And one I certainly didn't envisage walking with you. Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Miss Green? Yes, my lord. You will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, as punishment for the attempted murder of Mr. William Shamspeare. Yes, I know. And you, Mr. Shamspeare, whoops, what the... You will be tried for the murder of Mr. Duncan Ross in cold blood and the subsequent attempted murder of Mr. Soseki Natsumi here present. Mr. Naruhodo? Ah, yes? Yesterday at the hospital, when you and your friend stopped me from ending your life by drinking what was left in the poison bottle, I wasn't myself. I can't even really remember what was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. That's a question that's so hard to answer, it seems. Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Miss Green. Oh, and I'd like to believe that it's a blessing Mr. Shamspeare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least. Because of you, I chose life, not death. And now you've made the truth come out at last. Really, I can't thank you enough. Oh, Miss Green. Mr. Soseki Natsumi? Yes, my lord. The court declares that you are exonerated from all blame in this matter. Accordingly, I would call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict of not guilty. We are in full agreement, my lord. In that case, I hereby declare the defendant... Yay! I still don't see why this case has such big ramifications in another country, but I guess we may find out, yeah. I mean, we'll have to, but maybe we'll find out soon. Get an inkling. Court is adjourned. Nice case, though. Sad, really.
Quite tangled.
Quite tangled and just quite sad at how much, like, he just wanted that loot that he's never going to have anyway. Oh, yes. Yes, at last. Divine justice duly done. Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there were any divine justice in this world, you would shave that mustache. No, this has nothing to do with my mustache. Some say that a luxuriant mustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Films. Welcome, students, to Naruhodo Esquire once again. Once again, you've saved me from doom. To have been able to help Mr. Natsumi. Congratulations on your acquittal. You're second in almost as many days. I was first acquainted with and gained affection for English literature whilst in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here. In the end, I confined myself to my room and lived life through friendly old books. You've had such a difficult time, haven't you? Ah, but a week ago now, I dragged you out of that dark and dingy room of yours, did I not? You did, and I've seen more of life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English that's so far been hiding from me behind the wall of fog. My dear fellow, there's nothing special about the true face of the English, as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in this world, humans are human. There are a few genuine differences. Yes, I think you're right. I finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that wherever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're all just doing our best to live. Well said, I've come to feel the same way. I've made a decision, too. I'm going to cut short my study tour here and return to Japan. What? Just when we'd become friends here in England. What a terrible shame. Oh, I know, that does tug at my heartstrings, it really does. But I've decided I'd like to take everything I've learned here in Britain and write something of my own. A novel of sorts, I suppose. Oh my, so you'll be creating your own literature, Mr. Natsumi. How wonderful. Oh, well, no, I mean, I wouldn't presume to call it literature. Why not, when that is precisely the definition, Mr. Mustache? I suppose you're right, yes. It will in a way be literature. But as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur. I, for one, would love to read your work. Well, all things considered, may be for the best. After all, you have once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper. Ah, that's very true. And there is no salvation for a person in the dock when the Reaper is the prosecutor. The desire to return post-haste to the perceived safety of your homeland is one I quite understand. My goodness, yes, faced with such a terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure. But that's not why I'm leaving. I mean it. Heated objection? And that was the case that we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now. Soseki-san did indeed return to Japan and submitted the report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Mikotoba was prompted to visit the scholar, and barely any time later, Susato-san was given the news that she must return to Japan as well, on the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen gravely ill. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial on the following day, the day that we uncovered the loot hidden by the now-deceased convict in his former lodgings. Okay, now we're getting somewhere with this. Oh, well done, Mr. Sholmes. How simply marvelous of you. To uncover the secret hiding place in just one day. Wasn't it supposed to take 30 minutes? As I believe I told you, my dear fellow, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations. Wouldn't you agree, Gregson? Gregsy's been happily munching in agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley. Happily, I think perhaps humorlessly might be closer to the truth. So, it transpires the man fashioned a hiding place in the ceiling. And what's in it? What exactly is the loot? Let us look then, if you're ready. Let's examine the late burglar's haul. What the? What is that?
Is there blood on that?
Blood on it, yes. It looks to be some sort of neckband or collar. Collar? It's huge, though. Look at the gemstones in it. I can see why it was claimed to be worth £1,000. Perhaps I could have it as a belt. Oh, have you noticed on the inside? There are some dark stains. You don't think they could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it. On second thought, perhaps I won't have it as a belt. Then, of course, there's this emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown. What does it signify, do you think? Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know. Where could it have been? That's enough of that, I think. What? What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the color is drained from his face. Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, aren't you? It could be valuable evidence after all, and must be kept safely under lock and key. Ah, yes. Get your grubby hands off that, you lot, and hand it over now.
Giselle Brett?
I don't know. I've never seen a collar that large before, and all those jewels certainly look to be extremely valuable. But that's not what stood out the most to me, at least not once I noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar, those stains, could they really have been blood? And Sholmes immediately...
He knows what it is.
Yeah. Well, that was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now. And you look very pleased, Iris. I am, because I was starting to wonder what I could use as the basis of this month's story in the magazine. But this case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating. You're talking about the latest installment of The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, I presume? The mystery of the knife in the mist, and the mustached man, and the convict's curse, perhaps. I could make it a two-part story. Oh, I can't wait. A word, please, Iris. Yes, what is it, Hurley? I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question. What? Why not? It's a great case. Then I shall have to insist that you limit yourself to the first of your two titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear? Yes.
What was her first two titles?
And so it was that the second of Soseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity.
The Mystery of the Knife in the Mist, and the Mustached Man and the Convict's Curse.
Now, looking back, I feel I understand.
But she also can't do the Hound of the Baskervilles either.
I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again, with an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
That was not helpful.
Well, it was, because we know now what caused it, at least, even if we don't know what the thing is. And we know now that Mr. Sholmes knew what this thing was immediately, and Gregson seems to be in on it as well. Not necessarily that they have bad motives, but there's something there.
The Return of the Great Departed Soul. Ooh, the resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Do you want to see the beginning of this?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. That was a good case. I dug it. Actually, it's probably out of all the second cases, that was a pretty darn good one from all the ones I played so far.
The grand end of the century great exhibition of London. Surely there is not a soul who has failed to hear of it. Wondrous new works of culture and industry from every corner of the globe had converged on Hyde Park, welcoming over 50 million visitors. The last great hurrah of this century. Astonished and delighted people of all nations, and ended on a note of resounding success. But as regards to the terrible catastrophe that occurred during the festivities, very few are aware my friend Mr. Herlock Sholmes had a hand in unraveling the matter. For from the shadows, it was he who earnestly unearthed the facts of the case. And like the centerpiece of the great exhibition, which rose high into the skies of Hyde Park, Sholmes's brilliant deductions, as clear and lofty as the Crystal Tower itself, brought the truth to light.
We're here at the showground of the Great Exhibition, which is absolutely packed with people. The weather is unusually fine, and we're about to witness a most extraordinary scientific experiment. Ladies and gentlemen, the 20th century will see steam engines and electrical power dominate the world. Horse-drawn carts will give way to the motor car. Ships will sprout wings and take to the skies. And today, we showcase even more advanced technology. A glimpse into the future. A world first. A demonstration of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine. A man will literally be disassembled by a pulse of high voltage electricity and beamed to another location.
What is this, the Prestige?
Whereupon his body will be reassembled by a series of complex calculations exactly as it was before.
I'm trying to teleport people here, though.
In but a few moments from now, these gentlemen will, in the blink of an eye, complete an incredible journey through the air. To arrive an instant later on the Crystal Tower behind you!
Oh boy, this is good. Runa, are you listening? Oh, sorry, what was that, Iris? Ugh, what's the matter with you? You've been miles away all morning. Didn't you like what I cooked for breakfast? No, that's not it at all. What were we talking about again? Today's paper. It's full of news about the Great Exhibition again. Ah yes, the Great Exhibition. I'd like to go sometime. You're really not your usual self today. You seem very down. Don't you agree, Hurley?
That's...
Did you say something, Iris? Oh gosh, you're even more down. Ugh. What? When did you arrive, Mr. Naruhodo? I've been here for about half an hour already. We had breakfast together. What? Why didn't you mention it before? I thought you might have known I was here, because breakfast? Iris is quite right. You're clearly lacking in vim, so much so that I didn't notice your presence. Thanks. Of course, I could deduce the reason perfectly well with some simple observations. What? Let's see. Yes, for example, your tousled hair this morning with all its unruly spikes. Clearly, it can be deduced, therefore, that... let me stop you there, Mr. Sholmes, because I think I can see where this is going. My hair always looks like this. It always has, ever since we first met, in fact. Oh, really? How interesting. It just doesn't look like a haircut as such, I suppose. Ah, ha, ha. Thanks again. It crossed my mind recently that it's been 6 months now. 6 months? Since I was forbidden from working in court. So I've been wondering how much longer I'm going to be banned. Oh, well, that would explain why you seem rather glum. Don't you agree, Hurley? What? Did you say something, Iris? Back to moping. What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes today? He seems even more down in the dumps than me. I know, and the great exhibition is open. You'd think he'd be excited. Oh, why don't we all go see it together? I want to, of course I do, but I can't. Not for the time being. Why not? Why not? Why not? Because I'm a great detective after all. So you're embroiled in some tricky case that you can't be distracted from, is that it? I don't remember hearing that you're working on a case, Hurley. I suppose I should try to find out what's going on. And maybe we'll find out next time?
Yeah.
Alrighty. I've heard some raves about this case, so I guess we'll find out what the heck they're all about in due time. Oh no. Oh no. Alright. Thanks for watching. Until next time.